Okay, I am live. Sorry about showing up so late. I know that some of you will not be joining in because you may have lost faith. So anyway, very, very sorry about that. But maybe you're catching this afterward on YouTube. And this is a very important stream because this is the last dev stream for Kalling Kingdom. And actually, I would say this is probably not going to be too much of a dev stream. I'm actually going to be going through some of the previous streams, and I hate to break tradition. I do have some coffee here. I hate to break tradition. I don't have the sugar-free soda. I just have coffee, right? Normally, I have my sugar-free soda because when you're sitting for hours in coding, or when you're sitting for a long time and giving a finale dev stream, why do you need the calories, really? The coffee has no sugar, though, I will say that. So, let me just, I'll go ahead and follow the format here just for a second, and I'm going to switch over to elegacorp.com. There's been a website update, so if you're watching this live stream afterwards, you've probably not seen the sort of the pattern here, but the website is updated, and I do like where it's going. I moved the stream schedule down here. Now, I am going to continue streaming. This is not like the last stream I'm ever going to do or anything like that. It's just that I'm trying to find a way to sort of change up what I do in these streams, and I think at this point, part of the purpose of what the Kalling Kingdom dev streams was for has been met. We started off, and we're going to go into this as I kind of keep going here, but we started off with basically building something almost from scratch. So you got to see me build an extremely early prototype in the first stream, and we ended up with where we are now, which is an early access launch. Now, at elegacorp.com, if you go to the website, there's this banner here, and this first banner up here will take you to the itch.io storefront page. I'm actually logged in right now. Let me log out just so it'll be exactly how you would see it. So bam. So it looks like this, right? This is the itch.io store page. Points out that we are in early access, but otherwise it gives you the game description right here. It's launching for 50% off a plan price of $7.99. And this is it. I've done it. I have released a game, basically. And now, granted, this is not the full game. I'm still finishing everything up. I'm finishing the sprites. I'm adding more events. I'm doing bug fixes. I'm doing gameplay balance tweaks and so on. But over the course of the next 30 days, there will be a game all of a sudden in my company's catalog, and that is extremely exciting, and that is a major milestone, I have to say. And it just took a number of hours of going there. And so I'm probably going to write about this a bit, and perhaps I will talk about it on stream at some point here in the near future. But I think that for right now in this stream, it's important to take a look at how far things have come. So let's examine that a little bit. So where did this all begin? On elegacorp.com, if you go to the YouTube tab under community, it'll take you to the Elega Corp YouTube channel. If you then go to playlists right here, and then go to this one called Kalling Kingdom Dev Streams and view the full playlist, this has all of the previous streams, and I just want us to go back and take a look at the very first one for a second, because I think it's pretty remarkable how far things have come. I'll cut off the audio because I don't want anything sort of mixing things up. But take a look at this. This is what it originally looked like. You had these three panels of business, people, and decision. You had current turn, cash, and people up top. It was extremely simple. And it was basically a game with menus and giant buttons in it. And it really didn't have much of an interface at all. In fact, at this point in the initial prototype, most of what was being done was just writing the initial code. And if you go through these streams and you pay attention to where the code is going, you'll notice how giant and huge this gets. Like, this is the game manager script, and we start off here and just look at that little miniature view there on the right. It's so tiny at the very beginning, and I think it's important to take note of this because a lot of people get overwhelmed by what is required to make game dev work, and how much you have to learn, and how much you have to do, and how many hours you have to put in, and so on. But there really isn't much of any secret to it, and I haven't really seen much of any other series that is quite like this one, but I wanted to do this live stream with basically 0 edits and 0 manipulation so that people could really see that this is what goes into it. This is it's not just the secret of game development. I would also argue this is the secret of programming. And you just do it one tiny little step at a time. You write one line at a time, and you test over and over again. And you basically just do that thousands of times over. And at the end of it, you have a game. You have a working product at the end of all that. And that's really how I've made my career. And it's a tiny little secret. It really shouldn't even be considered a secret, but I feel like it's something that most people, when they wonder about whether or not they should get into writing code, they don't really adequately understand. And the reason they don't understand it is because they're so distracted by looking at the end product of a lot of these different things. And, you also should not mistake the idea that whatever your favorite so-called AAA title is, the idea that you are going to do that by yourself, or if you are going to do it by yourself, you're certainly not going to do it within 4, or in my case, I'm entering 5 months at this point, because I started in I started in April, actually. So yeah, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm here in month 4, actually. I guess that's about how long I kind of expected. I really wanted to get this game done in like 3 months. I wanted to go fast, but it's okay. The 4th month is going to be so important. There's still tons that has to be done. And I actually think that there's really going to be a little bit of time to kind of polish a little bit, and I think that will be needed. And really, you know, with the remaining 30 or so days, what it's really about is of course it's about finishing it with what I kind of initially had planned, and it's about polishing it a little bit. But I'm not really planning on just walking away at the end of the 30 days. It's really just that for the next 30 days, outside of the day job, this is the priority, right? That's really what it's about. It's about making this the main project on my sort of, side project timeline. And, if you have to pay your bills through some other means, that's really all you can do. So if you've been following along this entire time, and a couple of you have, I think, just take this in. Look at how tiny this is, and look at the number of classes here over on the left: business, game manager, person, sound manager, UI manager. That was it. That was all the code. And then, of course, this is in the Unity engine, so there's a little bit of help along the way, right? There's tons of stuff that Unity does for me immediately up front that I don't have to worry about. And that has certainly been useful. And thank goodness that we have game engines now that provide all of this. You learn those engines, and you're able to begin snapping something together pretty quickly once you gain enough domain knowledge and enough skill with that engine. And it's really pretty remarkable what some people are able to do. So let me go back. So this is the very, very beginning. This is the first stream, and I had done a tiny bit of development before that first stream. Not very much, though. This is extremely early. In fact, I think the first code that I ever wrote for Kalling Kingdom, this game, was back in January. So let me go back. But really, I wrote a tiny bit in January, and then the vast majority really began to happen starting in April of this year. So let's jump forward a little bit. I'll go to stream number 4, and I just want to show you this. This is this is just these horrible colors. And I do want to describe here what I was thinking. And by the way, just to give you a point of comparison, hang on a second. Let me go here. So I think this is the available people panel, right? Let me see. Available people, business and people. Okay, well, close enough. If I go, business and people. This is what it looks like now. Okay. And I'm still planning on getting rid of this panel and replacing it with something better. But this is what it looks like now. Okay, so just to compare, this was it on stream number 4. This is what it is now. Okay, stream number 4. So when was this? This was April 21st. It is August 1st at the time of the stream. So not even 4 months ago, at the time I'm recording this and streaming this, this is where I was. And you can also see there's a lot more information here. There's just much better colors. There's an image of this grass hill. There's a little background going on there. And none of the buttons are even there. Everything happens one step at a time. Although even in this stream, I do immediately decide, you know what, I have to change these colors. And so I basically go back on that. Now, I do want to talk for a second about the decision behind the original colors. And this is actually very important in a way. When I first began this project, if you go and you watch the gameplay of this now, or if you, of course, go to itch.io and purchase it for yourself for $3.99, you will see that a lot of the mechanics behind this game have to do with all these numbers. You're placing businesses down, you're reaping income from that, you invest in the market, you manage city expenses, you make cash offers to people to come to the town. Everything is about all of these different numbers. And, truthfully, there's an aspect of this project that I really didn't accomplish whenever, I would say, looking back at it now, that I was hoping to get done by the time it was over. And I don't think that's quite going to happen, but the goal was that I wanted there to be a very, I'll say, non-combative, peaceful, relaxing, and occasionally kind of an emotional experience behind the game. For the people that come to the town, one of my goals as a designer at the very beginning of this was to get you to care about the people that are moving into the town and to care about their goals and their aspirations. Well, part of the problem with that, number one, is the direction that I needed to take to lay a foundation, right? So mechanically, for the game to function as a city builder, it needed all these numbers. It needed these dynamics where by lowering spending or making money on these particular areas in the game, that has pretty dramatic effects on the overall simulation. And when you focus on that, you don't have a lot of time if you're building this out within... I've built this entire thing at this point, under 200 hours of development time total, because I've been tracking my hours. And so with that limited amount of time, when you're trying to get all this stuff done, you don't have a lot of time to start laying this extra dimension on the people who are joining the town. Now, we still have 30 days until the full version of the game is released, and I still have plenty to add in and to do. But I think that at the end of it, for this initial release, the outcome will be a simplified version of what I originally imagined. What I originally imagined was that every person would have a backstory, and they would all be trying to kind of do something a little bit different. And your job would be to not just build out a city, but also simultaneously to pursue these individual objectives around the people that had joined your town. And it didn't quite turn out that way, but that's okay. I think that even so, what we've ended up with here in terms of the interactive material is we still have a city builder that is very simple, but also, I think in a lot of ways, pretty compelling. At this point, a small number of people have played the game, and a few have even purchased copies off of itch.io. I am very happy to say, and I am very glad they did. And thank you so much to you if you're watching, if you're one of the customers. They've all given fairly similar feedback on a lot of different points. So some common points of feedback that I've gotten in the early access version that is now available is, number one, some basic interface things. So that's, I would say, obvious, and I still have tons of things on the to-do list to address there, and I will do a lot of those things. For new player experience, it's usually new players, or if they haven't watched any of these streams and they don't know, and they're just looking at the interface for the first time, they can feel kind of lost trying to figure out what to do and what these individual things mean. And the language of the game, the sort of interactive language, is not entirely clear all the time, and I do realize that, and I do have ways of addressing that. Like, so a great example of that at the moment is that when you make an offer for someone to come move to the town, you're just clicking a button and there's no feedback about what happened with the offer. It's really just happening under the hood. And I do realize that that's just something lingering from the prototyping stage. But no worries, that will be addressed. There's going to be an animation of some kind that will show you here's what happened with the offer. And who knows, maybe if there is time within the next 30 days, I'll be able to add some extra sort of dimension and depth to that particular little system. And there's just a lot of little things like that. But I would say a couple other things that people tell me. Most people die or, go bankrupt or get destroyed by monsters before like turn 7. Or probably before turn 10, if they make it to turn 7. And I'm kind of fine with that. I don't... Ever since some of the like earliest builds that were played by some of my friends, I haven't really been concerned about the idea that people die really quickly when they first start playing the game. That's probably still fine even after all the revisions that I plan to do and all the little improvements that I plan to do, because you will learn very quickly what you did wrong. The most common mistake is people will build buildings way too fast. And what you really have to do with this game right at the start is you need to cut expenses, invest in the market, and maybe build 1 or 2 buildings, a couple stables at first. I got a great piece of feedback the other day from someone who bought the game, which is that they were not clear on what the different building types do and whether or not they should pursue those buildings early in the game versus later. And that is an excellent piece of feedback, and I totally agree. I haven't really done enough to convey to the player what is the significance of these buildings. Well, as I begin building out additional events, these events that you come across, like a really common example is a monster attack where if your military spending is at 0, you'll get obliterated, basically, because you have no defense. Another event is a starving traveler. Someone's coming to you. They've been traveling. They're starving to death. They're asking for aid. The drawback to providing them some help is that they could be a security risk, and so what do you do? There's a lot more dilemmas to come like that, and also my plan is that the buildings, in relation to a lot of these events that will happen, will come in handy in a number of different ways. And so basically the next month or so, with some of the obvious things that need to get done, like I'm basically still finishing all of the art and the graphics. In addition to that, the last sort of step is polish, adding additional events, and really just tying together every single system so that everything matters and that everything basically relates to everything else. The number of people you have, the decisions you've made in those events, the buildings that you've put down, the choice of buildings that you've chosen to do, how much you have invested versus how much you're investing in your citizens, all kinds of things like that. And I really don't want the player to feel like they have made the wrong choice based on some line of thinking that they have. Because, yes, it's strategy. The survival aspect and making it to the 60th turn at the moment, that's kind of the objective of the game from an objective standpoint. But one of the things that I like about this is that I want people to really just think about direction without concerning themselves so much about collapsing, right? Like, yes, if you learn a few basic things, I don't want it to be super easy, because I think that there's some things that if it's fair, that difficulty can add a little bit of sort of a compelling aspect to everything. But at the same time, once you've learned the basics of how to survive, I really want a lot more of this to be about that sim aspect. About, well, if I wanted to focus on going this way, how would I do that? If I wanted to focus on just investing, how would I do that and still kind of make it through the bad times when the market just crashes into nothingness, right? Or if I wanted to just focus on making people in the town as happy as possible and getting as many people as possible, even if I don't have a place for everyone, is it possible to do that and still make everyone happy? I want those to be the kinds of options that players have in the game. And so the next month or so leading to the full release of the game is really going to be about things like that. I am, at this point, now plowing through getting these sprites done for the buildings. Let me jump over to the IndieDB page here on IndieDB.com. And I'll just show you, this is one of the latest models, or the progress on the model. Can I make that bigger HD view? That's okay. Yeah, that's a little bit bigger. And so this is basically one of the sort of work in progress states of the restaurant building. If you haven't seen it prior, this is what the farm building looks like. And I'm kind of, I'm beginning to sort of like go through this pretty fast. I'm starting to get the hang of it in Blender a little bit. I'm starting to do a little bit better. And I think that the last 3 buildings will be a lot easier to knock out this way. And I don't even know, I did concept art for like the first 3 buildings. I probably won't even need to do that for the last 2. But I'm going to knock these out pretty fast. I'm going to try and get some time in with it this weekend and just get through it. I don't think I'll finish all the building sprites within the weekend because that's a lot of modeling to do. But I'm going to try to get through as much as I can. And really, within the next 1.5 to 2 weeks, most of those building sprites will be done. And they'll probably look okay. And then I might do something with this green canvas here. Maybe add some things along the edges to make it look like you're in the middle of like a grass clearing where you might have like trees around the edges and like maybe some landscape, maybe some rocks and some maybe a little bit of hills or mountainous looking sort of areas or something. I don't know. I may try and kind of do that and see if I can get it to look kind of cool. And if I can do that and still have like a reasonable area for placing down buildings and stuff like that, then I might do that. Some people are wondering if, like, you know, am I going to be able to scroll around and have more of an area for building out the town? Maybe. I don't really want to do that in the initial release of the first full version of the game because I really think it would introduce some scope creep. Because if I were to do that, it would begin introducing kind of a slew of unexpected things, I think. I think that by providing this initial build area and kind of keeping it to 1080p, I think it's providing a little bit of a gameplay restraint that makes some sense for what this project is. If I get to the end and everyone basically seems to disagree with that, then I might reconsider and I'll go back in afterward after the 1.0 release and I'll say, okay, yeah, cool. Let's do it. Let's add scrollability. Let's make the map bigger. Let's make it so that you can sprawl out. Let's make it longer than 60 turns. If people really want that and it really makes sense, then I'm totally willing to kind of come back and buckle down and make that happen, I think. But for right now, with the simplicity that I'm going for and just the basic sort of mechanics of everything, I think it'll make a lot of sense just to keep it there. You know, again, if you've followed the previous streams, one of the things I've been saying the whole time is that this was really just inspired by the 8-bit NES retro era. Obviously, this does not look like a Nintendo Entertainment System game, and it does not look like an 8-bit game, because it's not. And it does have some graphics that, well, quite frankly, when we're talking about this little house graphic here, that's probably on par with Roller Coaster Tycoon back in the late 90s. But for me, for someone who really this is their first time doing any 3D modeling for more than an hour at a stretch, trying to do something for an actual product. I think it looks fine, and it looks pretty good. In the chat, if you think that this little house looks just terrible, then tell me, and I will put some more time into it. But I think it looks okay, and I think that the other buildings are going to come out okay too. Again, here is the restaurant progress here on IndieDB, and I think this is coming along pretty well. And by the way, just compare this to the concept art for the restaurant. This was the concept art, and it's a similar sort of thing. You kind of have this cooking area with a kind of a little chimney for what might be like an oven inside or something like that. Some tables and chairs, and this covering. And if we go and we look at the 3D model, it's pretty on point in a lot of ways. I did change a few things, but I think it's coming along pretty well, and I think it fits the spirit of that concept sketch pretty nicely. So that's about it. I did send out some tweets earlier, and if anyone has any questions, please go ahead and spit them out. Again, I apologize for starting the stream late on the schedule. I had this as it was supposed to start at 7 p.m. Central Time, aka 8 p.m. Eastern, and I kind of came in 20 minutes late. The time got away from me, and I was on the couch, and I freaked out. I had just gotten my coffee, and I'm sorry. But if no one has any questions, I just want to kind of close with a few things. I'll continue watching the chat for questions if you have any, but itch.io, the game is available now in early access. $3.99. It's on sale until August 31st, which is the planned release date for the full version of the game. I am sprinting full speed ahead until that time, and on August 31st, very important, the game will increase to $7.99 or $8. But on the flip side of that, even though the early access period will be over and the game will go to its full price, on the flip side, that's when really the majority of the push to let everyone know about the game is going to happen. If I am going to do any advertising, that's around the time it will happen. That's when review copies will go out to YouTubers or media sources and things like that. But all that being said, I don't expect to sell a lot of copies. I would like to see some very small community, even if it's just really tiny. Maybe it's just 20 to 50 of you out there. I would like to see that eventually form. Some people who just care about the game a little bit, or who just get something out of it. I'm sure there's one person out there who likes this idea as much as I do. So if I'll just find that one person, right? But anyway, where was I going with that? Yeah. Well, so the point is that this has meant to be a small scoped project from the start, something that can be gotten done in under 6 months. I was shooting for 3. I think it's going to end up being about 4, maybe 4.5. I'll have to go back and look and kind of tally the hours and when those hours were worked at the very end. And I will continue doing some updates post-launch, right? Every once in a while, I'll come in. I'll make sure that this is compatible with operating system updates. I am planning on taking the game to Linux. I am planning on taking it to other storefronts. And I am also considering the possibility of doing an Android version for mobile phones. If I do that, though, I'm just going to let all the mobile players out there know it's going to be the same price. It's going to be the same game, same price. The only difference is it will be on Android, and that is it. And I know that if I do that, I know someone is going to criticize me for putting an $8 game onto a mobile store, because Oh my God, we can't have a mobile game that costs $8 that is not some AAA studio port, right? If it's Grand Theft Auto, you're allowed to charge $9.99. It's ridiculous. But I kind of want this for myself on Android just so that I can kind of tinker with it throughout the day. Like one of the ideas I had about this when I first started is it was really meant to be a game that you could kick back, play at your own pace. It meant to be a very relaxing experience. And it is something that you could kind of just look down at your phone, maybe update some stuff in your town, right? Maybe play a turn real quick, hit the next turn, and then maybe go back to whatever it was you were doing. You know, just little moments throughout the day. And the entire time, you won't see a single microtransaction. Imagine that in a mobile game. If we could just get there with way more games on mobile, I would be so happy. And you know what? They're probably out there. I'm sure there's games like this on mobile that maybe they do things really well. Maybe they don't even have microtransactions. I would love to know about some of those games. I've gone looking a couple times and not really found anything that is very compelling or interesting to me personally. But hey, if you know about any of them, feel free to let me know. I would love to find some out there. I think that the whole mobile business model has been a giant mistake, and we need to go back to just let me pay a premium for the game and just give me the whole game, and let's call it a day. I don't want to pay a subscription or pay you microtransactions or deal with gambling mechanics like loot boxes or whatever, just so that I can play a game on my phone. If it's a great game, I'll pay money for it. But that's just me. I know that's just me. Anyway, I do need to wrap up. I know I was late getting on. I know this is kind of cutting it short. Thank you so much to those of you who have tuned in live. If you will even go to elegacorp.com, or another thing that you can do is go to kallingkingdom.com. Bam, it takes you straight to the itch.io page. If you even just go to the itch.io page and think about buying the game, I will so completely appreciate it. I have gained such a newfound respect for indie game marketers now that I have had just a small taste in this tiny little early access release, that if I can just get views onto the store page, I will be so much happier. It's incredibly challenging. I did not realize how difficult it was just to get people to look, but it is really hard. It's harder than I thought. I knew it would be hard to get sales, but I'm a little bit shocked in these early days on how hard it has been just to get views. Because you don't have to pay anything for views. All views cost, in a lot of cases, is like a few seconds of someone's time. And wow, it has been difficult to even get that. That being said, I did sell a few copies, and I'm very, very happy about that. So anyway, thank you so much to all of you for watching this. Thank you if you check out the game. Thank you if you're watching this on YouTube. Thank you if you follow me on Twitter. And if you want to follow the game on Twitter, the handle on Twitter is @KallingKingdom. KallingKingdom.com will have details. I am going to put together a website for the game later as well, so that you won't be taken straight to the itch.io page when you go to the website. It's coming to more storefronts, coming to more operating systems. Just keep that in mind. Progress will continue, but for right now, this is the conclusion dev stream. You've seen it come from almost nothing into early access. And who knows? I will probably pick back up after the end of August and do some streams showing the very full completed version of the game. Maybe we'll play a little bit. Maybe I'll give people a few little tips. If I can get some live streamers playing with it, who knows? But anyway, thank you so much. I will leave you there. Bye.